let's talk about the conscious changes that nobody is bothering to talk about. And this is major. I grew up in the South, Mississippi to be exact. Mississippi is specifically a very carved up state. It's pretty much carved up in a way to make it a rural state. It's probably one of the least developed state, even though we do got, cities of 50, couple cities of 100,000. Jackson is the biggest city at about 150, 160,000, maybe couple 100,000 if you throw in the suburbs. But this rapper right here, Project Pat, he's from Memphis. And the reason why I mention all that stuff about Mississippi is that if you look at a map, every damn city, major city, is cut out or was cut off from Mississippi. Well, anyways, Project Pat is from Memphis, which is right there on the border. Memphis is kind of like a state line type city. It really is that a portion of the city is actually in northern Mississippi. But the reason why I'm making this video is not to give you a geography lesson. It is to really talk real quick about how they don't really follow a person, and not just, we can't put all of this on, the so-called white man or whatever. It's that we don't really. I was looking at Project Pat account, and man, I'm going to say this right here over on Twitter. We are some very low vibrating people if this is all the tweets he's getting. Man, I can't describe to you, bro, how big of a dude Project Pat is in Memphis. Now, to a cat, it'll be some cats out in LA and out west who will probably listen to somebody like Project Pat. But for the most part, the upper East Coast, pretty much above DC, Virginia, they not too much into that Project Pat flavor. It'll just more off be certain specific people in areas like Jersey, New York, Philly, DC, that listen to the Project Pat. You'll probably find a few people in Detroit, maybe even DC too, who probably rock Project Pat. But he's a big time artist. I was down south. He got a lot of songs, Don't Save Her. He had the somewhat comical song Chicken Heads. I think that's what it was called, Chicken Heads. And a lot of other songs. But the thing about Project Pat is that he was always in and out of jail. The down south version of the hip hop police was always on his ass, man. And the dude was just in jail. And with this release of BG, it ended up being that his Twitter account popped up. Now, I know that Pat has been out of the game for a few years, but I went over there and I looked at the account, and man, I didn't know that Project Pat had made such a drastic change in his life, man. Dude is sharing links to like mega churches, mega church pastors. He's putting gospel music all up on his account, and he is working, as part of a prison program to go visit inmates, give them support, etc. There's probably some consciousness that he feels like that he contributed to a lifestyle that encouraged, a whole lot of the stuff that wound up with, with those guys in jail. But the big thing that I also wanted to point out is not just, that certain entities are gonna just not really, they're not really gonna push and promote a black man when he's doing something positive with his life. But what I'm really surprised by is that Project Pat is loved, man. He's admired big time in Memphis. And for the community to just let him kind of just flail off into this just random figure who's doing good, but no longer the person that he was. Like, dude, you talk about humility. Like, if you out west, man, Project Pat. If I can compare rappers, man, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Project Pat is around about the E40. And if if you above 35, man, especially, that E40 is a legend. He's a god on the West Coast. As far as East Coast, I'm going to say Project Pat would be about the equivalent of, I keep trying to think of maybe kind of like a certain member of Wu-Tang. You can throw in Ghostface. Or maybe even to some degree another RZA. That's how big of a personality and just of a dude that Project Pat was. And for him to reduce himself down to this, and there's something that people say, and I'm gonna just say this and shut it down, man. They say that rappers should be more positive, but there's something that people also say, that rappers should be more positive, but who's gonna buy it? Who's gonna listen to it? Like, is there really a demand? Nope, that's not really a demand. And you can see that if he wanted to, and I think I still saw a few posts he did where he kind of linked to concerts, and if you want to book him, but I don't know what exactly he do nowadays. But yeah, man, where's the demand and where's the support? I'm really flabbergasted, man. I'm flabbergasted that Pat has changed his life, but I'm even more flabbergasted at how such a big ass dude, man. Again, this is E40, or the Ghostface Killer of the South, man. And the very second that this dude stopped being a nigga, he becomes invisible. Wow, man. Unbelievable. But anyways, man, shout out to Project Pat. I support whatever he's doing. I'm out.